Stop scrolling. This coin could change your life. Don't ignore this. Most people have no idea, but the government allows these coins to stay in circulation, even when some of them are worth far more than their face value. And that's where the opportunity is. Right now, if there's a Washington quarter dollar anywhere near you and the date ends in a 5, do not spend it. I'm serious. Some Washington quarters with the right year, mint mark, rare error, or exceptional condition have sold for over $35,000. Yes, for a single quarter. And here's the part nobody talks about. The less people understand these coins, the easier it is for collectors to pull them straight out of circulation. So before you spend your next quarter, check your pocket, check your wallet, check your change jar. Because the coin you ignore today could be worth thousands tomorrow. And trust me, from here the coins only get rarer, scarier, and more valuable. Stay with me until the end. This is Numismatic Vault Extra, USA, United States. And these coins change everything. Money bag. The story of the 1977 D. Washington quarter begins long before the coin itself was struck. To understand why this coin attracts so much attention today, we have to travel back into the history of American coinage. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of the first president of the United States, George Washington. At that time, the nation wanted a coin that would honor leadership, courage, and the founding spirit of the country. The design chosen for the coin would become one of the most recognizable images in American history. The man responsible for creating the famous portrait of Washington on the coin was sculptor John Flanagan. His design shows Washington's profile facing left, with the word Liberty above his head and the national motto, "In God We Trust," placed beside the portrait. On the reverse side, the coin displays a powerful eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbols of strength and peace. This design remained on the Washington quarter for decades and became a symbol of stability in American currency. By the 1970s, the United States had already gone through major changes in coin production. Before 1965, quarters were made with 90% silver, but rising silver prices forced the government to switch to a copper-nickel-clad composition. From 1965 onward, quarters were produced using layers of copper and nickel instead of precious metal. This meant that most quarters made in the 1970s, including the 1977 D coin, were not made of silver even though they had a silver-colored appearance. Coin trackers. The 1977 D. Washington quarter was minted at the famous Denver Mint, one of the most important coin-producing facilities in the United States. Coins produced there carry a small letter D, mint mark on the obverse side of the coin near Washington's hair ribbon. This tiny letter is extremely important to collectors because it tells the story of where the coin was created and sometimes affects its rarity and value. During 1977, the Denver Mint produced a massive number of these quarters. Historical records show that approximately 256,524,978 coins were struck at the Denver Mint that year. Because so many coins were produced, the majority of them entered circulation and were used in everyday transactions such as buying groceries, paying bus fares, and making small purchases across the country. UseThatCoinBook.com+1. At first glance, a 1977 D quarter may appear like an ordinary piece of change. It measures about 24.3 millimeters in diameter and weighs around 5.67 grams, with a copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy. The edge of the coin is reeded with small ridges, a feature that has been used for centuries to prevent coins from being shaved or tampered with. UseThatCoinBook.com. When these coins were released in the late 1970s, Americans used them without giving much thought to their future value. They passed through cash registers, coin machines, and bank drawers millions of times. Over time, many of these coins became worn, scratched, or faded from constant use. However, coin collectors, also known as numismatists, see these coins differently. For collectors, every detail matters. The sharpness of the design, the brightness of the surface, and the presence of mint marks or unusual errors can dramatically affect the coin's value. Most circulated 1977 D quarters are worth only their face value of 25 cents because of their extremely high production numbers. However, when a coin survives in perfect or nearly perfect condition, its value can increase significantly. U.S. Coins Guide. A coin that remains in uncirculated mint state condition, meaning it was never used in everyday commerce, can sometimes sell for several dollars or even higher, depending on the grade assigned by professional grading companies. Washington-quarters.com. In rare cases, coins graded at extremely high levels, such as MS-67 or higher, become highly desirable among collectors. These coins show almost no marks, scratches, or signs of wear. Because so few coins survive in such flawless condition, collectors are often willing to pay hundreds of dollars for them. One remarkable example of a 1977 D. Washington quarter graded MS-67 sold at auction for around $431, demonstrating how condition can dramatically affect value. For collectors who dream of discovering a rare coin, this possibility adds excitement to the hobby. U.S. Coins Guide. Even more fascinating are coins that contain unusual minting errors. Occasionally, coins are struck incorrectly during the minting process. These errors might include off-center strikes, double images, or coins struck on the wrong type of metal blank. In some extraordinary cases, collectors have discovered 1977 quarters struck on unusual planchets or with dramatic minting errors. These rare mistakes can increase the coin's value dramatically, sometimes reaching thousands of dollars in specialized auctions. According to coin value research guides, certain rare error examples of 1977 quarters have been valued in the thousands of dollars, and exceptionally rare specimens in perfect condition have been estimated to reach values approaching $10,000. Coins value. Stories like these capture the imagination of collectors around the world. The idea that an ordinary coin could potentially hold extraordinary value inspires many people to search through their spare change or old coin jars. Many collectors remember discovering their first interesting coin as children, perhaps in a pocket full of change from a grocery store or in an old piggy bank inherited from a grandparent. Moments like these often spark a lifelong fascination with coins and history. The Washington Quarter series itself is one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. From its introduction in 1932 until the redesign in 1999 for the famous 50-state quarters program, the basic Washington and Eagle design remained largely unchanged. Because of this long history, collectors often enjoy assembling full sets of Washington quarters by year and mint mark. Completing a collection that includes every year and every mint can take years of searching and dedication. The 1977 D. Washington quarter may not automatically turn someone into a billionaire, but it still represents an important chapter in the story of American currency. It reminds us of a time when coins were produced in enormous quantities to support a growing economy, and when everyday pocket change carried pieces of history. Today, somewhere in old jars of coins, forgotten drawers, or family collections, thousands of these quarters still exist. Most are ordinary, but a few might be extraordinary, preserved in near-perfect condition or hiding a rare minting error. And that is what makes coin collecting so exciting. The next time someone finds a 1977 D. Washington quarter in their change, they might look at it a little more carefully, because even the smallest coin can carry a remarkable story and, in rare cases, surprising value. Next up, the Washington quarter itself had already been part of American currency for decades. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the coin quickly became one of the most recognized pieces of money in the country. The portrait of Washington symbolized leadership, courage, and the founding ideals of the United States. The design of the Washington quarter was created by sculptor John Flanagan, whose artistic work helped shape American coinage for generations. His portrait shows Washington facing left with a calm and dignified expression, surrounded by the word liberty and the national motto, "In God We Trust." On the reverse side of the coin, a majestic eagle spreads its wings while holding arrows and olive branches, symbols of strength and peace. For more than 30 years, the Washington quarter had been produced using 90% silver. But by 1965, rising silver prices caused a national coin shortage. To solve the crisis, the United States Mint made a revolutionary decision. It removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters and replaced it with the copper-nickel-clad composition. Coin identifier. The 1968 Washington quarter was part of this new generation of coins. Although it looked similar to earlier silver quarters, its metallic composition was completely different. Instead of precious silver, the coin was made of outer layers containing 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. Coin identifier. This change allowed the government to produce coins at a lower cost, while still maintaining durability and the familiar silver-colored appearance that Americans expected. The 1968 quarter without a mint mark was produced at the historic Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most important coin-producing facilities in the United States. At that time, coins minted in Philadelphia typically did not carry a mint mark, which is why many 1968 quarters appear without any letter on the front. During that year, the Philadelphia Mint produced an enormous number of these coins. Historical records show that approximately 220,731,500 quarters were struck there in 1968 alone. USA Coin Book +1. Because of this huge production number, millions of these coins quickly entered circulation and became part of everyday American life. Americans used these quarters for nearly every small purchase imaginable. They dropped them into vending machines, fed them into parking meters, and handed them across store counters as change. Over time, most of these coins became worn and scratched from decades of circulation. Despite being common coins, the 1968 Washington quarter still holds an important place in numismatic history. One reason collectors pay attention to this year is because 1968 marked a design change in mint mark placement. Starting that year, mint marks were moved from the reverse side of a coin to the obverse, near Washington's hair ribbon. Coin identifier. This small change may seem insignificant, but to coin collectors, it represents a major transition in the history of the Washington quarter series. Another interesting detail about the 1968 quarter is its physical design. The coin measures about 24.3 millimeters in diameter and weighs approximately 5.67 grams, making it a comfortable size for everyday use. USA Coin Book. Its reeded edge, the series of tiny ridges around the coin's rim, helps protect the coin from wear and prevents tampering. Because millions of these coins circulated heavily, most examples found today show significant signs of wear. A typical circulated 1968 quarter without a mint mark is usually worth only its face value of 25 cents. U.S. Coins Guide. However, collectors are always searching for coins that survived in better condition. If a 1968 quarter was preserved carefully and never used in everyday commerce, it may still retain its original mint luster. These uncirculated coins can sometimes sell for $1 to $5, depending on condition. FindBullionPrices.com. For collectors, the real excitement begins when a coin appears in extremely high grades. Professional grading companies evaluate coins using a numerical scale that measures how well the coin's details have been preserved. In rare cases, a nearly flawless 1968 quarter can achieve an exceptional grade, such as MS-68. Coins at this level show almost no marks, scratches, or imperfections. One such extraordinary example sold at auction for $9,400. Demonstrating how condition can dramatically increase the value of a coin. U.S. Coins Guide. Stories like this inspire collectors around the world to examine their spare change carefully. Sometimes the most valuable coins are not the ones that were meant to be special, but those that were preserved by chance. A coin stored in a drawer, saved in a coin album, or forgotten inside an old jar might survive in near-perfect condition. The thrill of discovering such a coin is one of the reasons coin collecting remains one of the most popular hobbies in the world. While many online stories claim that ordinary coins can be worth tens of thousands of dollars, the reality is that true value usually comes from rarity, condition, or unusual minting errors. The 1968 Washington quarter, without a mint mark, is a fascinating reminder of a time when American coinage was undergoing dramatic change. It represents the transition from precious metals to modern alloys and the effort to keep the nation's currency stable during a period of economic pressure. Today, billions of Washington quarters continue to circulate across the United States, carrying with them pieces of American history. And somewhere, perhaps in a forgotten coin jar, an old wallet, or a family collection, there might still be a remarkably preserved 1968 quarter waiting to be discovered. For collectors and treasure hunters alike, that possibility keeps the search alive. Next up, the story of the 1967 Washington quarter begins during one of the most dramatic periods in the history of American money. In the mid-1960s, the United States faced a serious coin shortage that affected everyday life across the country. Vending machines stood empty, parking meters could not be used properly, and businesses struggled to provide change for customers. The problem was so severe that the government realized something had to change in the way coins were produced and distributed. Out of this unusual moment in history emerged the 1967 Washington quarter, a coin that today captures the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters around the world. The Washington quarter itself had already been part of American culture for decades by the time 1967 arrived. It was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of the birth of the first president of the United States and one of the most respected figures in American history. The coin was meant to celebrate leadership, courage, and the founding ideals of the nation. Over time, the Washington quarter became one of the most familiar coins in American pockets. The artistic design of the coin was created by the talented sculptor. His portrait of Washington shows the president in a calm and dignified profile, facing left with strong yet thoughtful features. Above the portrait appears the word liberty, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," rests beside Washington's image. On the reverse side of the coin, a powerful eagle spreads its wings, while clutching arrows and olive branches, symbols that represent both military strength and the hope for peace. For more than 30 years after its introduction, the Washington quarter was produced using silver. The coin contained 90% silver and 10% copper, making it not only useful as currency, but also valuable as precious metal. However, by the early 1960s, the rising price of silver created a serious economic challenge for the United States government. As silver prices increased, people began removing coins from circulation and saving them, hoping the metal would become even more valuable. To solve this growing crisis, the United States government passed one of the most important reforms in the history of American currency. This law removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters and replaced it with a modern copper-nickel-clad composition. Beginning in 1965, Washington quarters were no longer made of precious metal. Instead, they were produced using layers of copper and nickel bonded together to create a strong and durable coin. The 1967 Washington quarter was produced during the transitional years following this reform. In order to discourage coin hoarding and stabilize the currency system, the United States Mint made an unusual decision. It temporarily removed mint marks from coins. Normally, coins carried small letters indicating where they were produced, such as Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. But during 1965, 1966, and 1967, mint marks were deliberately removed so collectors could not easily identify coins from different mints. Because of this policy, every 1967 Washington quarter appears without a mint mark, even though the coins were actually produced at multiple mint facilities. This unusual feature makes the coin historically interesting and marks it as part of a unique chapter in American coin production. When the 1967 quarter was first released, it entered circulation in enormous numbers. Millions of coins were struck and quickly distributed to banks across the country. These coins passed through countless hands, used to buy groceries, pay for transportation, and fill the coin slots of vending machines. Most Americans never paid much attention to the coins they carried. To them, the quarter was simply a convenient way to pay for everyday purchases. Yet hidden within this ordinary circulation was the possibility that certain coins might one day become valuable collector's items. The 1967 Washington quarter measures approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 5.67 grams. Its edge is lined with small ridges known as reeds, a feature designed to prevent tampering and protect the coin from excessive wear. The copper-nickel composition gives the coin its bright silver appearance even though it contains no actual silver. Over time, The majority of these coins became worn and scratched through decades of everyday use. Most examples found today show clear signs of circulation and are typically worth only their face value of 25 cents. However, collectors know that condition is everything when it comes to coin value. A coin that remains in uncirculated condition, meaning it was never used in everyday transactions, can be worth significantly more than its face value. When a coin retains its original mint luster and sharp design details, collectors often consider it a desirable addition to their collections. The real excitement begins when a coin survives in nearly perfect condition. Professional grading companies evaluate coins using a scale that measures how well the coin has been preserved. Coins graded at extremely high levels, such as MS-67 or MS-68, are rare because very few coins escape the scratches and marks that normally occur during production and handling. In rare cases, a nearly flawless 1967 Washington quarter has sold for impressive prices at auction. Some exceptional specimens have reached values approaching several $1,000s, particularly when the coin displays extraordinary quality and sharpness. Stories like these fuel the imagination of collectors around the world. Many people enjoy searching through old jars of coins, inherited collections, and pocket change in the hope of discovering something special. The fascination with coins is not only about money, it is also about history. Every coin carries the story of the time in which it was created, the economic challenges, political decisions, and artistic visions that shaped the nation. The 1967 Washington quarter represents a moment when the United States was adapting to changing economic realities. By removing silver from coins and redesigning the way currency was produced, the government ensured that everyday transactions could continue smoothly during a difficult time. Today, collectors view the 1967 quarter as an important piece of this historical puzzle. It reminds us of the challenges faced by the nation during the 1960s and the creative solutions that kept the American economy functioning. Some online stories claim that coins like the 1967 quarter could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. While most coins do not reach such extraordinary values, truly exceptional examples can still command impressive prices among collectors who appreciate rarity and quality. The excitement of the search is what keeps the hobby alive. Somewhere in a forgotten drawer, a dusty coin jar, or an old family collection, there may still be a beautifully preserved 1967 Washington quarter waiting to be discovered. And that simple piece of metal, once used to buy a cup of coffee or pay for a bus ride, might one day reveal itself as a small but fascinating treasure from America's past. Next up, the story of the 1965 Washington quarter begins during one of the most dramatic moments in the history of American currency. In the mid-1960s, the United States faced an unexpected financial challenge that changed the way coins were made forever. For decades, American quarters had been struck using real silver, a precious metal that gave coins both beauty and intrinsic value. But as the economy grew and the demand for coins increased, silver prices began rising rapidly. People started saving silver coins instead of spending them, believing the metal inside them might soon be worth more than the coin's face value. This behavior slowly created a nationwide shortage of coins, and the government realized that a historic decision had to be made. The Washington quarter itself already carried a long and proud history. By 1965, it had been introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, a leader whose legacy shaped the foundation of the American nation. The coin quickly became one of the most recognizable pieces of American currency. Its design represented not only money, but also national identity, reminding citizens of the courage and leadership that guided the United States through its earliest years. The man responsible for the artistic design of the coin was the American sculptor John Flanagan. Flanagan created a dignified portrait of Washington facing left, capturing a calm yet powerful expression. Above the portrait appears the word liberty, while the phrase, "In God We Trust," is positioned near the president's profile. On the reverse side, a majestic eagle spreads its wings while holding arrows and olive branches, symbols that represent both readiness for defense and the desire for peace. For more than 3 decades, from 1932 until the early 1960s, the Washington quarter was made from 90% silver and 10% copper. These coins had a bright, beautiful shine and carried real precious metal value. But by the early 1960s, the rising price of silver began causing serious problems for the American economy. As silver became more valuable, people started hoarding coins instead of spending them. This created an unexpected shortage that affected everyday life across the country. The solution came in the form of a historic law known as the Coinage Act of 1965. This legislation changed American coin production forever. Under the new law, dimes and quarters would no longer be made of silver. Instead, they would be produced using a modern copper-nickel-clad composition. The new coins had a core of pure copper sandwiched between layers of copper and nickel. This change allowed the United States Mint to produce coins more efficiently while preserving their familiar silver-colored appearance. The 1965 Washington quarter became the very first year of this new coin composition. Although it looked similar to earlier quarters, it represented a completely new chapter in American coinage. The coin measured about 24.3 millimeters in diameter and weighed approximately 5.67 grams. Its reeded edge, those small ridges around the coin, helped prevent wear and discourage tampering, continuing a tradition that had been used on American coins for generations. Another unusual feature of the 1965 quarter was the absence of a mint mark. Normally, coins include a small letter indicating the mint where they were produced, such as Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. However, during the coin shortage of the 1960s, the United States Mint made a surprising decision. To discourage collectors from hoarding new coins, mint marks were temporarily removed from all coins produced between 1965 and 1967. Because of this policy, every 1965 Washington quarter appears without a mint mark, even though the coins were actually produced at multiple mint facilities. This unusual detail makes the 1965 quarter historically unique and easily recognizable to collectors today. When the coins were first released into circulation, millions of Americans used them without giving them much thought. These quarters passed through cash registers, vending machines, and parking meters countless times. They were used to buy snacks, pay bus fares, and make everyday purchases across the country. The United States Mint produced an enormous number of these coins to solve the shortage problem. In fact, more than 1.8 billion Washington quarters were struck in 1965 alone. Because of this massive production, most 1965 quarters are still common today and can often be found in circulation or coin collections. However, coin collecting is a hobby built on careful observation and attention to detail. While most coins may appear ordinary, some can become extremely valuable depending on their condition, rarity, or unusual minting errors. A coin that survives decades of circulation without heavy wear can attract the attention of serious collectors. Coins that remain in uncirculated condition are especially desirable. These coins have never been used in everyday transactions and still retain the original shine, known as mint luster. Their surfaces remain crisp, and the details of the design are sharp and clear. Professional grading organizations evaluate coins using a numerical scale that measures their condition. Coins graded at very high levels, such as MS-67 or MS-68, are extremely rare because so few coins survive in such perfect condition after leaving the mint. In rare cases, exceptionally well-preserved 1965 Washington quarters have sold for impressive prices at coin auctions. Collectors are sometimes willing to pay thousands of dollars for a coin that represents both historical significance and extraordinary preservation. Stories of valuable coins often capture the imagination of people around the world. The idea that an ordinary coin might secretly be worth thousands of dollars encourages many individuals to search through their pocket change, old coin jars, and inherited collections. However, the true value of coin collecting lies not only in the possibility of financial reward, but also in the connection to history. Every coin carries the story of the era in which it was created. The 1965 Washington quarter represents a time when the United States faced economic challenges and responded with innovative solutions. By changing the composition of its coins, the nation ensured that everyday commerce could continue smoothly despite rising silver prices. This decision allowed the American economy to adapt and grow while preserving the familiar appearance of its currency. Today, the Washington quarter remains one of the most widely recognized coins in the United States. Although its design has evolved over the years, the portrait of George Washington continues to remind Americans of the country's founding ideals. For collectors and historians alike, the 1965 Washington quarter represents a fascinating turning point. It marks the end of the silver coin era and the beginning of modern coin production. And somewhere, perhaps hidden in an old drawer, a forgotten coin jar, or a family collection passed down through generations, a remarkably preserved 1965 quarter may still be waiting to be discovered, quietly carrying a piece of American history and the excitement of a potential hidden treasure. Next up, the story of the 1989 D. Washington quarter begins with a coin that at first glance seems ordinary. Yet behind its simple appearance lies a long journey through American history and the fascinating world of coin collecting. Every coin carries a story of the time in which it was created, and the Washington quarter is no exception. When people look at the small copper-nickel coin in their hands, they rarely imagine that it represents decades of design tradition, economic change, and the enduring legacy of one of America's greatest leaders, George Washington. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. The United States wanted a coin that would honor the founding father who had guided the nation through its earliest and most difficult years. The portrait chosen for the coin was created by the American sculptor John Flanagan, whose artistic skill helped create one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. Flanagan's design shows Washington facing left with a dignified expression that symbolizes leadership and strength. Above the portrait appears the word liberty, reminder of the principles upon which the nation was founded. Near Washington's neck the words, "In God We Trust," appear, reflecting a long-standing American motto. On the reverse side of the coin, a powerful eagle spreads its wings while holding arrows and olive branches, representing both readiness for defense and the hope for peace. For decades, the Washington quarter remained almost unchanged in design. Early versions of the coin were made of real silver, containing 90% silver and 10% copper. These silver quarters circulated widely throughout the United States, and many people saved them because of their precious metal value. However, by the mid-1960s, rising silver prices forced the government to rethink how coins were produced. A historic reform known as the Coinage Act of 1965 removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters. From that point forward, most quarters were made using a copper-nickel-clad composition. This modern design used a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of copper and nickel, giving the coin a bright silver appearance while keeping production costs low. By the time 1989 arrived, the Washington quarter had already been circulating for more than half a century. The design had become a familiar sight in American wallets, cash registers, and vending machines. In that year, millions of quarters were struck at the Denver Mint, a major coin-producing facility in the United States. Coins produced there carry the small letter D, which appears on the front of the coin and identifies its place of origin. The 1989 D. Washington quarter was produced in very large numbers. The United States Mint created hundreds of millions of these coins to ensure that the nation's economy had enough small change for everyday transactions. Because of this large production, most of these coins were quickly distributed to banks and businesses across the country. From grocery stores to bus stations, from parking meters to vending machines, the 1989 D quarter became part of daily American life. It passed through countless hands, helping people pay for food, transportation, and small purchases. For most people, the coin was simply another piece of pocket change. Yet coin collectors see things differently. To a collector, every coin represents a tiny piece of history. The year, the mint mark, and the condition of the coin can all influence its significance and potential value. What may appear ordinary to one person might become a prized treasure to another. The physical characteristics of the 1989 D quarter are typical of modern Washington quarters. The coin measures approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 5.67 grams. Its ridged edge helps prevent wear and protects the coin from tampering. The copper-nickel layers create the bright metallic shine that people often associate with silver coins. Because so many of these coins were produced, most 1989 D quarters remain common today. In circulated condition, they are usually worth only their face value of 25 cents. However, the world of coin collecting places tremendous importance on condition. Coins that remain in uncirculated condition can be far more valuable than those that have been used in everyday transactions. An uncirculated coin still retains its original mint luster, the bright shine created when the coin was first struck at the mint. The design details remain sharp, and the surface shows very few marks or scratches. Professional grading services evaluate coins using a scale that measures how well they have been preserved. Coins graded at extremely high levels, such as MS-67 or MS-68, are rare because very few coins survive decades without noticeable imperfections. In certain rare situations, a beautifully preserved 1989 D Washington quarter may sell for impressive amounts at coin auctions. Collectors who seek the finest examples of each coin often compete fiercely for coins with exceptional grades. This competition can drive prices far higher than the coin's original face value. Sometimes even more valuable are coins that contain unusual minting errors. During the minting process, mistakes occasionally occur. A coin might be struck slightly off-center, struck multiple times, or created using an incorrect metal planchet. These rare errors can transform an ordinary coin into a highly desirable collectible. Stories about rare coins often spread quickly among collectors and enthusiasts. The idea that a simple coin from everyday change might be worth thousands of dollars sparks curiosity and excitement. Many people begin searching through old coin jars or family collections, hoping to discover a hidden treasure. Although most 1989 D quarters are not worth enormous sums, the possibility of finding an exceptional example keeps collectors interested. A coin preserved in near-perfect condition or displaying a rare error can attract strong attention in the numismatic community. Coin collecting is not only about money, it is also about history. Each coin reflects the economic conditions, technological advances, and artistic choices of the era in which it was created. The 1989 D Washington quarter represents a time when the United States was producing modern coins for a rapidly growing economy. The Washington quarter series continued for many decades until a major design change arrived in 1999 with the launch of the 50-state quarters program. That program introduced new reverse designs celebrating each American state, marking the end of the long-running eagle design that had appeared on Washington quarters since 1932. Because of this long history, collectors often enjoy building complete sets of Washington quarters from different years and mint marks. Each coin adds another chapter to the story of American currency. The 1989 D Washington quarter may appear simple, but it stands as a reminder of the stability and continuity of the nation's coinage. It carries the portrait of the first president, the artistry of its designer, and the technological advances that shaped modern coin production. And somewhere, perhaps resting quietly in a forgotten drawer or hidden inside an old jar of spare change, a beautifully preserved 1989 D quarter might still be waiting to surprise someone with its history and possibly its unexpected value.